Okay, we're doing number 9. All right, cheesy pickle person. Okay, what color? Pick a color.
Purple.
Purple. Okay, help me out here. Product.
So product. Well, first off, you want to use Dorito Man since this is a negative times a positive.
Yeah. Negative times a positive means our final answer will be
The negative.
negative. That's correct. Yeah, my computer was being weird. But a negative times a positive will make a negative. So, final answer negative. Alright. Alright, go ahead.
Okay, so, well, I don't really like to multiply just straight across, like, as mixed numbers.
As mixed numbers, yeah.
I like to change them to improper fractions. So what you do that is, take negative 3.5 for an example.
Mm-hmm.
Multiply 3 times 2.
Okay, so 3 times 2 means that the whole 3 makes 6 halves, right? And we also have a half left over, so that makes 7 halves. Okay, what about this one?
And then the same thing except different numbers.
Which is?
5 times 6 is 30. 36.
Right, 36.
And then we have one. Then we have a
Plus
5,
6. I don't like to say just multiply and add because then a lot of people, they're not quite sure what they're doing. Okay, so those are our 2 fractions now. Hooray! And we don't need to worry about the signs since we're multiplying. We already know what the final sign will be. So let's just multiply. Okay, what do we get? Can we reduce 7 and 6, 2 and 35? Nope. What do we get?
So you will get 245 over 12.
Okay. Which reduces to?
Negative 20 and 5/12.
All right, let's give him a nice cheese pickles round of applause. Who's next? Who's next? Who's next?
Subscribe.
Excellent job, young man. Who's next? Come on down. So number 10, right? Okay, number 10. What is the value? Okay, so when you're doing this, guys, I want you to make sure you write everything with parentheses. Don't take a shortcut, all right? So we have a negative, and then 20 times r is negative 1/4. Oh yeah, bell is ringing, huh? Which stands for I don't care what my code name is. All right, what color, sir?
Blue.
Blue. Well, apparently you cared about that. First thing I'm going to tell you guys about a problem like this. Don't skip steps, all right? You really want to write down everything with the number that you're substituting. Oh, I hate when it does that. The number that we're substituting, we don't want to use Mickey Mouse where it's like plug in. You're never going to see on a test plug in. You're going to see substitute. Everyone say substitute.
Substitute.
Okay, so we're going to substitute with parentheses. All right? So help me out, Mr. IDC.
So first, for the numerator, we want to put 1 times 4/5.
Good. Oh, let me write that a little higher. Sorry. 1 times 4/5. Okay.
And then for the denominator, we want to write 20
That
times.
is so sloppy. Give me a second. I want to make it a little bit easier to read. So 1 times 4/5. Maybe that's a little better. Okay.
Over 20 times negative 1/4.
Okay. Now this way, a lot of students, they like to skip steps because they're smarty McSmartsters. But it really helps if you don't skip steps and actually write this out. Get it?
Yes.
Okay. It helps you to not miss things. So, but I need a little more room to work, so I'm going to shrink it. Okay, it's been shrunken. Okay. Help me out, Mr. IDC.
So first, you want to do the 1 times 4/5.
Okay.
And you get 4/5.
Yep.
Then you want to do 20 times 1/4,
Mhm.
which you get
we get 20 over 4
which is
is 5, negative 5.
excellent. Oh yeah, and don't forget about the negative that's before the entire fraction. So that's going to be tricky. All right, don't forget about that negative either. Okay, how do we do this?
So next we gotta write it out. 4/5. Then we put 4/5 divided by 5 over 1.
Excellent. So negative of the
Negative.
whole thing. 4/5 times
Divided
negative.
by. Divided.
Oh, dividing. Okay, so dividing 5 over 1. Oh, the negative. Woo, buddy. Okay. Meow, meow. It's a lot of things to remember, huh?
Yep.
Okay, there we go.
So we divide by multiplying by the reciprocal.
Right.
So we flip 5 we flip 4/5 times 1 over 5.
Don't forget the negative.
Negative.
Okay. How many times do you think I see that as a math teacher? People forgetting to write their negatives. A whole lot. Okay. What do we get?
We get negative 4/25.
Okay, and then here negative 4/25. Okay. Now what? Are we done?
Yeah.
The negative of negative 4/25. I think we have one more step. You think you know what it is, IDC?
Yeah.
What?
We have to the double
Right. Negative times a negative makes a
positive.
positive. Hey, that's like orange, like Halloween style. So actually, all of you guys who said it was negative, I think you forgot to copy a negative. Or did I make an error or no?
I think
I know, I was going by the consensus of the class. But, do you guys think I made an error or did I do it correctly?
you
Okay,
made
cool. So, that's what happened, guys. So really be careful, because at the beginning of this problem, there's a negative. And then there's also a negative with the,
1/4.
with R. Right, so both of those negatives end up canceling out here and making a positive.
Yeah.
Does that help?
Yes.
Let's give IDC a hand. Okay. I think I should move this. What do you guys think?
Yes.
Yeah, you should move it on top of the
Oh yeah, let's shrink it. Oh no,
Oh,
the magic lasso has failed me. Okay, that one, we could move it over there, sort of. Oh boy. Oh boy. Oh boy. Alright, let's see, made this. Okay, let's hear it for Patrick! Okay, Patrick,
Hi.
help us out here.
Hey, be a star.
Would anybody like to just read the problem into the microphone?
I will read it.
Josh, come on
I
down.
read it.
Okay, the red reader. Here he goes.
4 pieces of
No,
That's
don't
good.
do that. He was whispering. Okay.
4 pieces of wood, each 5 and 6 inches long, are required for building a frame. If all 4 pieces are cut from one board, how long should the board be to the nearest whole foot?
Okay, so excellent job, Red Baron. So, Red Reader. So, we could estimate before we multiply, or we could estimate after we multiply. Which one did you do?
Well, I just kind of just did the problem.
So you estimated after.
I think I did, yeah. I don't think I estimated at all.
Oh wait, no, to the nearest. So it's rounding, not estimating. My mistake.
Yeah.
It's rounding.
Yeah.
To the nearest. Okay, my mistake.
Okay.
So we want to do it perfectly, clearly, and then round. My mistake. Okay.
Yeah.
So 14 and 5/6. What do we do with that?
We want to change that to an improper fraction because we're going to be multiplying that by 4 because 14 and 5/6 is the kind of the length or whatever. Yeah, the length of one piece.
And we want 4.
And there are 4 pieces, so we have
Okay,
to change that
so
to an
now
improper.
I think it's easier if you don't change it to improper, but we'll do it your way too. Go ahead. So 14, how do we make that an improper?
you multiply 6 and 14 together, and you get 89.
Okay, so
No,
that's
wait, no.
80. Is that right? 60 plus. That's 84.
No, it's 84.
Yeah.
Shoot.
Okay, so 84 6.
And
Okay,
then
and we have
oh
to
wait,
add
no,
our-
no, because
add our
then you have to
extra
add
five.
the 5.
Yeah. So
So
we
then you
make
get
it
the
89
89
6.
six.
That's correct. Okay, so now.
Then we have to multiply that by 4.
Right.
But I was able to cross cancel.
Right.
The 4 divided by 2 is 2, and then the 6 divided by 2 is 3.
Good.
Which makes it just a little bit easier.
Mhm.
So then 89 times 2 is 178.
Mhm.
And then 3 times 1 is 3.
Mhm.
And then we have to divide that down because it's an improper. And I got 59 and 1/3.
59 and 1/3.
Yeah.
Okay. Now that we have that answer, we need to find to the nearest whole foot. How do we do that, Patrick?
So
How many inches in a foot?
12 inches in a
12.
foot. And if we multiply 12 times 5, we get 60, which is
Very close.
2/3
Yeah.
greater than 59 and 1/3.
Right, so how many feet?
around about 5 feet.
5 feet.
Yeah, but before we put that, I put the little squiggly line.
A little squiggly equal sign.
Yeah, just to show about 5 feet.
What a guy. Let's hear it for Patrick. Excellent job, sir. Excellent job.
Big star.
Okay, let's look at number 15. What that is. Mr. Potato Chip.
Twin potato chip.
It sounds like saying Mr. Potato Head. Alright, Mr. Potato Chip, help us out.
So since you're adding, you need to do
Oh, wait. Anybody else want to say how it might be easier without turning it into improper fraction? Come on down. You have a code name? No. Alright, so Jan's coming down. Alright, so 14 and 5 6. How do you multiply that by times 4 without turning it into an improper fraction?
the first thing you can do is multiply 14 times 4.
Right, so it means we're multiplying both of these separately times 4. Okay, so then we get 56. And then 4 times 5, right, is? Go ahead, Jan. 4 times 5?
Oh, 4 times 5 is 20.
Right, 26. So that's an improper. So we change that to how many? 3 and
1/3.
3 and 1/3. So plus 3 and 1/3. See how that works? So you have lower numbers to deal with. Now, I used to know this math teacher. She was amazing. She said real mathematicians are lazy. And what she means is if we show our work, but if there's a way to do it that makes it easier, we do that. Okay? You guys like that idea or do you hate that idea? You love it?
We hate it when the mathematicians are lazy.
Well, anyways, as long as it's in the right place. So the answer, we had the 359 and 1/3. Thanks, Jan. How many of you think that actually changed your mind that sometimes it's easier when you don't do improper? Little bit? Alright, come on down. Sometimes it's better improper, sometimes it's not. Alright, so Potato Chip, help us out here.
So since
-3 and 5 6. Positive 7 and 2/3. Let's go.
because it says sum, that means you're adding, and so you have to make.
Go
So
ahead.
since you're adding positives and negatives, you have to make the scoreboard.
Okay.
So you get the positives and the negatives. So you put 3 and 5 6 under the negatives, and 7 and 2/3 under the positives. So positives 1.
Positives are going to win the game.
And you
And
have to
how much do they win by? Well, that means we have to
subtract.
subtract.
So
Good. So
if-
we know our final answer will be positive, and we need to subtract. Okay. So how did you go about it? Did you change this to improper?
I didn't change them to an improper, but I found a common denominator of
Yeah.
6.
You definitely have to do that. So 7 minus 3
That would be 4.
is 4, so those are the whole numbers. And now for 2/3 minus 5/6, we have to get a common denominator. What's our common denominator?
6.
Do you agree, everybody? Awesome. So we're going to multiply times what on both?
2.
Times 2 on top and bottom. So we get, let's just write it over here.
4, 6.
Oh, we can't, wait. 4/6. Exactly, you can't do that. So what do?
So you need to borrow some from the whole number.
You need to borrow some from the whole number. So I shouldn't have done the whole numbers first. So then we have, so this was actually, what was it, 7, right? 7 and 4/6. How many do we borrow from the whole numbers?
1.
Hold on.
Now,
Okay, how many 7? How many are we taking from 7?
1.
So we get?
So you would get 6 and 10 over 6.
How do you get 10?
Because you put, like, 1 is equal to 6, 6.
Right, so we get 6/6 plus 4/6. Because we borrowed a whole, right? So that makes 10/6. Awesome. So let's see, I'm running out of room here. 6 and 10/6. And then we're going to minus 3 and
5, 6.
5/6. Awesome. And we get
3 and 5, 6.
3 and 5/6. So, in this case, because we had to borrow, if we didn't have to borrow, I think it's easier with whole numbers. But since we had to borrow, maybe improper is a little easier, but it's about the same. Who thinks improper is easier? Who thinks whole numbers is easier with borrowing? Who's not sure? All right, let's have everyone vote. All right, improper is easier. Okay, mixed numbers is easier. Wow, it's about 50-50. Isn't that interesting? I think that's interesting. Okay, all right, do you want to help us do it improper, or do you want me to do it?
You can do it.
I'll do it. Let's give him a hand. Potato chips. Oh, yeah, Daniel. Okay, Daniel's going to do it. No, Daniel, that's my name. Okay, so instead of all of that, we're going to do improper. So 3 times 6 is 18, so we have 18/6. And this one said, 18/6 plus the 5/6. So that makes 20 something. 23/6. Except I'm over to the side here. So there we go. And then we have 7 times 3, 21. Oh, we're doing thirds now. Ooh. 21/3 plus 2/3 is 24/3. Okay, those are our 23. 23. I know. I was just seeing if you had. All right, 23/3. How do we make it a common denominator? Multiply top times 2, right? This top fraction, we get 46/3. 46. 6 times 6. And now we have to subtract 23/6. All right? How do we know we're subtracting 23/6? That's not what this says, right? How do we know we're subtracting? Because of this, right? Because of this, right? We've got the positives are, okay, that's good. Thanks, Mr. Computer. Where am I? Hey, there we go. All right, so the positive side is 7 2/3. So this is the, I'm sorry, this is the positive side, right? And then this is the negative side. The negative side is 3 5/6. Isn't that correct? Okay. So which one's bigger? Who wins the game? Well, we don't know until we have a common denominator. So if we have positives and negatives, right? Positives and negatives. Okay, the negatives were 23/6. And the positives were 46/6. Correct?
Yeah.
Okay. 46/6. That was good. Like a Spanish class. All right, color green. Now, when you have these kinds of problems, which is evaluation, but what we're doing is we are substituting. Okay? When you're substituting in a problem, we don't want to use the Mickey Mouse words like plug in. People use that. He's actually hiding. All right. So we don't want to use Mickey Mouse words like plug in. We want to use the word substitute. Everybody say substitute, please.
Substitute.
Please sit properly, sir. Okay, so we're going to substitute, and I want you to actually write everything in parentheses that you're substituting. That's the way you're supposed to do it. So help me out here, Mr. Fax Machine from FedEx. Okay, let's hear it.
Hello. So you're supposed to multiply x by 3. So since x equals negative 2 nines, you need to multiply the 2 by 3 to get 6 nines.
But we are writing out the whole thing with the number substitute in parentheses. So please read it to me that way.
Okay.
So I want, read me this whole thing with the substitutes inside parentheses.
Okay, so 3
Yes.
times negative 2 nines.
Okay, and then?
Minus 12 times 4 and 1/6.
Right, now you did say minus, which is okay, but remember, we want to think about it as a negative integer. Okay? Negative integer. Okay? Moving on. I need to move that over. Okay, now what do we do? So you did this part first, right? Because we have to do the multiplication before we do the addition subtraction. So 3 times 2, you said, what do we get?
6.
Okay, we get negative 6 over 9, and then?
Plus 12 times 1. No. Plus 12, no. Plus negative 12 times 4 and 1/6 would equal...
Okay, what's 12 times 4 and 1/6?
49/6, I think.
49?
No.
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 Let's do it separately. Let's do 12 times 4, which is?
48.
48.
Okay, 48. So it's negative. Let's put it in parentheses. So 48. And then 12 times 1 in the numerator.
12.
Okay, so it's plus 12/6. Okay, and 48 plus 2?
50.
Is 50. So we have negative 6 ninths. Actually, we can reduce that right now. So what's that reduced to?
Negative 2/3.
Negative 2/3 and negative
1/10. No. 10.
No. 48 plus 2.
Oh. 50.
Because 12/6 is 2. So
50.
48, yeah, so 50. All right, now we think about our good guys and bad guys because we're adding subtracting now. So negative 2/3 of a point scored in the game and negative 50 points scored in the game. So, I'm sorry, bad guys scored 2/3, bad guys scored 50. How much did they score total? Negative 50 and 2/3. Does that sort of make sense, guys?
Yes, a lot of sense.
Okay, somebody said no. But let's give a hand for fax machine.
Fax machine.
Okay, is it this last part that's throwing you off? No, which part is it?
The part where I didn't get called up.
Which one?
The part where I didn't get pulled up.
I'm serious. Is there a part here that is not quite?
I just realized my mistake.
Okay. Okay, cool. All right. So let's move that stuff out of the way. How do we do that? Well, we get our handy dandy magic tools. This is a magic lasso right here, and then we move everything over there. And then we get our little hand tool and we move everything over here. Charlie is making croissants. Who's going to help Charlie make croissants? I think Fizzy Izzy's going to do it. Coming from Disneyland.
Hello there, humans.
All right, Fizzy Izzy, help us out with this. Charlie's making croissants. His recipe calls for 2 3/4 cups of butter. He has 12.5 cups. So we want to have a method for determining the number of batches. Okay. What's your method?
My method is where
Yeah, that's fine. If that's what you like. You can say your own method too.
so my method is you first off turn the mixed numbers into a fraction.
Into improper fraction? Okay, so two wholes is 8/4, right? Plus an extra 3/4 makes 11/4. Okay, and then you also have to turn this into improper, right? So 12 times 2 is 24 halves plus another half. So that's 25 halves. Now, if you want to compare these, they have to have
The same denominator.
So we multiply times 2 on top and bottom, and we get 50/4. Okay, so now that we've done that, it's a different method than we did earlier, right? We can kind of tell really easily how many batches you can make. How many can you make?
4.
Okay, how can you tell?
Because if you times 11 by 4, it equals to 44.
And 44 is you would have enough, right? If you have 50, you'd have enough. So what if you times it by 5?
It'll become 55, and we don't have that amount
It'll
of.
be too much. Excellent. All right, I like that. Excellent. As a matter of fact, I think that's pretty much it, isn't it? It's so interesting how sometimes improper fractions becomes easier in the problem, and sometimes it makes it harder. It all depends on the problem. Excellent job.
Thank you.
All right. So, Mr. Curtis, though, do you mind coming up and talking about your way of doing it? Also, all the periods are going to be. Okay, how did you do it, Curtis?
What I did is first I estimated, so I rounded 2 3/4 cup of butter up to 3,
Right, which is very close.
and 12.5 cups of butter down to just 12. And since 3 goes into 12 4 times, you know that you're going to make at least 4 batches.
Okay, hold on. 3 goes in 4 times to 12, right? 4 times.
Mm-hmm.
So you got to make sure that you round it the right way, right? Because it could have been not enough. So let's see. Well, we rounded up or down for the cups of butter?
Up.
Up. Okay, so if we round it up a little bit, then that means when you multiply by 4, you're actually under 12 a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
right? So if we're under 12, do we have enough to make 4 batches?
Yes.
Right. So that means 4 is a thumbs up. I'm going to put a happy face because I can't draw a thumbs up. So 4 batches is a happy face. All right? And then if we have now, so our question was, what about 5? Well, if you do 3 times 5, you have 15, which seems like too much. But we did already round up, so we want to be perfectly sure. So let's multiply times 5. So if we have 2 3/4, Should I do it myself, or do you want to help me, Mr. C?
You can do it yourself.
Okay, so 5 times 2 is 10. 5 times 3 is 15 fourths. Well, we want to simplify 15 fourths. What do we get? Anybody? 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 Ivan?
We get 13 3/4.
Right, 10 plus 3 and 3/4. Right. And that makes 13 3/4. Okay, so 13 and 3/4 is too much because we don't have enough. Right? So, if Charlie wanted to make 5 batches, use what you know about operating to predict the amount of butter. Well, we already know the amount because we did. It was either 50 fourths or 13 and 3/4, right? Which is the same thing. Isn't that the same thing, guys? Maybe. Am I right or am I right?
You're
You're right.
I think I'm right.
Yours.
Well, let's multiply 13 times 4. What is that? That's 40, 52 plus, oh, so wait. No, so it isn't right. 13 and 3/4, yeah, right. Let's just unfrozen time. So, okay, this, I paused the video and then unpaused it. So, this is actually not 5 batches. It's, since we're rewinding, it actually is equal to the 12.5 cups of butter. But, what we were talking about, remember, Mr. Fizzy Izzy? You remember, we were saying 11 fourths times 5 is what, 55? And if we multiply 13 times 4 is 52 plus 3 is 55. So it did work. Let's give all of ourselves a hand.